Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the first Ask Me Anything webinar for the Reading Half Marathon 2016. I'm George Anderson. I have been writing various emails and doing various coaching programs, training programs, as the training partner alongside Garmin for the race. And it's a real kind of pleasure to be here this evening to answer any of the questions that you have. And this is completely live, unless, of course, you're watching the recording, in which case it's just recording. But if you are here for the live thing, then the great news is then you get to not only ask your questions, and we've already got a load of questions in there, so I've got enough content. Even if nobody asks the questions, loads of good stuff and really common questions that I'm going to hopefully dig down into this evening. But if you ask a question and I need a little bit more information, then I can just probe you for more, and you can tell me a little bit more about your specific situation. And we'll hopefully get to the bottom of it. And that's really it. There's no agenda. There's no little spiel or anything like that, first of all. I'm just here. I've just literally got back about 20 minutes ago from teaching a boot camp session here in Tame, where I live. And I'm here in my office, in my studios, in my kitchen. I've got to say, I'm not feeling 100%, so I'm glad I can't kind of transmit my lurgy through the webinar here this evening. But I just want to encourage you, first of all, to, if you have any questions, I know it's great to just kind of tune in and be involved in it, be part of the community and all those good things, but actually ask your questions. If there's anything at all, it might seem like a silly question to you, but actually they're the most important ones, because if a silly question that you think is silly is stopping you from taking action or is causing you some kind of stress or overwhelm or uncertainty, then getting some clarity on that can make a world of difference. So I just want to check, first of all, that you guys can hear me. If you are listening in through the Facebook group, could you do me a huge favor, please, and just comment on the post with the link to the video and just say where I'm here and whereabouts you are listening in from. So I've got an idea of kind of the spread. I imagine we've got a lot of Reading-based runners, but I also know there's a lot of runners from all over the place who are doing the race this year and every year. It's an amazing race. I've actually been involved with it for the last, it's my 13th year involved with the Reading Half Marathon, so it is a great event. Let's have a look, see if anybody or where you guys are listening in from. Make sure you're commenting on the main post for the webinar, not the previous Ask Me Anything post. The one with the video. That's the one I want. Comment on the one with the video link. So make sure you're over there. Let me just check, because I think some of you are still commenting on the other one. Fiona, you just commented on the other one. I will answer those questions as well, but if you're here live, then go to the one where I'm actually broadcasting from, where you're watching the video from, and then you'll be able to ask your questions. And I'm trying to get back to that page myself now, because I think it helps keep it all together. We can keep the thread together, and it just makes everything else a lot easier. So let's do that. Hang on a second. Let me scroll back down again so I can find it. Here we go. I'm just going to put this up here. 1 second, bear with me. Ask your questions on this thread. There you go. See, now you can tell it's live because it's tech problems already. Okay, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to the other post where we had a few questions. Actually, I'm going to answer Fiona's question first. I know that she's just asked that just literally seconds ago. So Fiona's question, and then I'll go back in date order unless I hear others coming in on the proper thread. Fiona says, my half marathon time has improved by only 10 seconds in the 11 months, presumably since the last race. What cross training is going to have the most impact on my speed in the next few weeks to get me closer to my goal time? And now this is the ultimate question: how do I run faster? And yeah, frustrating when you seem to be putting in a lot of effort, but you're not getting quicker, or not getting significantly quicker for the amount of suffering that you're putting your body through. And it's not necessarily cross-training. Cross-training will help, and by cross-training, I mean strength conditioning, so getting stronger. And that could be anything from run-specific exercises, single-leg squats, balance drills, and actual running drills like high knees, kickbacks, that sort of thing. So actual sessions where you're focusing on those kind of movements. But also just general strengthening, deadlifts, squats, chest press, lat pull-downs, pull-ups, all the basic big exercises that are going to just get your body strong. That really does have an impact as well. But actually, to get faster at running half marathons, you just got to run faster. And that sounds obvious, but Fiona, I know you've done the I half program, my Intelligent Half Marathon program, but actually focusing on the speed, focusing on the intervals, their threshold work in particular, paying more attention to those runs rather than the longer runs. That's where you're going to get faster. If you've done half marathons before, you know you've got the endurance, then pay more attention to the faster runs and really kind of work on the quality. So there you go. That's hopefully giving you some answer. I'm hopefully going to try and answer these questions in as much detail as I can, but I also want to kind of make sure I rattle through as many of them as possible. So let me just get my, I've lost the thread now. Lost the thread, lost the plot. There we go. Make sure I'm answering the right questions in the right order. Here we go. Okay. Right. So you can hear me listening from Reading, listening from Didcot, Andover. Hey, Nicola's there from Middle Barton. I know the Bartons. Fiona's in here. Jen, anybody else listening in, just comment. Let me know where you're listening in from. Robert's there from Thatcham, good old Thatcham. And okay, so no other questions on that thread just yet. So I'm going to hop back over to the other thread. It's going to get complicated in a minute. Answers. So we've got. I'm not sure I can pronounce that name. Junaid Abbas. I think that's how it's pronounced. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. But here's the question. 2 questions. I'll answer them one by one. It's the best way I find. Number 1, I've not been able to train for about 3 weeks. And because of that, I'm behind my training plan. I want to know how I can build a distance for weeks I've missed the training. The second question is very different, so I'm going to ask that one. I'll read that one out in a second. But this is a classic question because, you know, the best laid plans, they're not always going to come true. So you have a 12-week training program or a 20-week training program. You have to miss a week here. You have to miss a week there, whether it's through injury, through illness, just being super busy. I actually did a little video blog about the long run, which is what this pertains to, just earlier in the week and posted it up in the group. So you might have already had that question answered, but I will repeat it here anyway. And the answer is you need to kind of, first of all, take stock and say, well, if I've missed 3 weeks of training, then it stands to reason that that's going to have an impact on what you can do on the day. And that's not going to go unnoticed by your race day performance. Otherwise, if it would make no difference at all to take 3 weeks off, your training program would just have a big 3-week gap in there where you don't do any training. You just rest up for 3 weeks, do some stretching, do some foam rolling, have some massage, and then get back into it. And that's the best thing. Obviously, that's not the case. So we have to accept that has an impact. If you were going for, say, a 2-hour half marathon, then you've missed 3 weeks of your training. You got to adapt your expectations there. So modify your expectations. Maybe shoot for a 2-hour 5 instead. And that's not a question, but I think that's a really important point that we need to make on this. Make sure your expectations are in line with the training you've been able to do, not what you set yourself way back at the start. That's the first thing. So how do you build those long runs back up again? If you're following one of my programs, which works to time rather than to distance, then make sure that as you jump up, if you missed out a 15-minute increase one week, and then there's a 15-minute increase the next week, and you missed out one of those weeks, you don't want to suddenly jump up by increasing your long run by half an hour. Especially if you missed 3 weeks, that's quite a big chunk. So gradually catch it back up again. That's the key, that you gradually increase that mileage. And it might be you don't get quite so far in your training as you would have liked to have done. It depends really on what your target time is, what sort of standard of runner you're at. But yeah, it's a really common question. It's unfortunate that runners can get injured. We're susceptible just as anybody else to injuries, whether it's running related or otherwise. And obviously illnesses and so on as well, and just life getting in the way. It can play havoc with plans for half marathon running. Second question was, when I run outdoors, it's always difficult for me to maintain a constant speed. Start fast, I run out of breath, and I have to walk for a bit. Any advice on maintaining a constant pace? Absolutely. And Gemma Scrace chipped in there, said she'd like the answer to the first question. So when I run outdoors, it's difficult to maintain a constant pace. Obviously, when you're running on a treadmill, you just run at the same speed, right? It's as simple as that. If you have when you start a run, you always feel fresh. And when you feel fresh, you tend to go off a little bit faster. And this is a really salient point for the race itself. Most runners, not you guys obviously, but you'll witness this, most runners will go off like a bull in the china shop at the start, pump full of adrenaline, and the feel-good factor of starting a half marathon maybe for the first time, rocket off thinking, my goodness, I'm on for a smashing PB here. Or an amazing time. I'm going to knock 30 minutes off what I thought I was going to do. Then 20 minutes up the road, you're nursing tight hamstrings and puking up at the side of the road. We don't want that. So just start off more conservatively. Slow down at the start. That's the key. Slow down at the start and then build it up. And actually, a lot of it comes down to practice. That's the key, really, just practicing. If you have a Garmin or something similar like this that just tells you what your pace is, you know what your average pace should be at, use that. You can set the limit so that you don't run too slow, you don't run too fast, and it beeps at you. I'm trying to get to design something that actually picks up your hand and slaps you around the face like that if you run too fast, but they haven't really got back to me on that idea yet for some reason. But I think it'd be a great idea, don't you think? So that's hopefully given some answer to yours. Next up, we've got Robert. Hi, George. Looking forward to the webinar. Fantastic. Hopefully you're here live, but no worries if not. Did Reading a half last year for the first time and loved every second of it. Good man. It is an awesome race. This year, I'm taking part again. Found that this year, due to training, legs ache more. One, is that normal? I've booked myself to have a sports massage at the end of the month. And two, is it a good idea? Would I need more than one? I can't recommend massage highly enough. It might be that your training's changed slightly, Robert. It might be you're doing more training, you're training harder, you're running faster. But either way, massage is, it's not essential, but it's beneficial. It's not the sort of thing you want to have if you've never had it before, to then suddenly have it the day of the race or the morning of the day before the race, because it can have, can have side effects. It can make you feel quite drowsy. It can make you feel quite tired for a day or two as you release all the crap that builds up in your muscles. But actually, if you get used to having one once a month, when I'm training for an event, I'll have one every couple of weeks just to keep the toxins flushed out of my body. So yes, it will hopefully have some kind of an impact as well. Natasha asks, I would like details to know for your first half, like the details you need to know for your first half marathon. Should we be using gels or jelly babies? What to eat in the morning and when, etc. I don't know what the etc. refers to, but assuming your question is, Natasha, referring to nutrition, and I imagine, again, this is something that many people will want to know. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do for this one. I'm going to give you a very brief answer now, but I'm going to record another session on race day and the 24 hours previous, prior to the race day, nutrition, because it's something that everybody will be asking that question. And I think I'm going to do a disservice if I try and go into detail with it here, because I'm going to be answering that question multiple times. And we've got 5 weeks, so there's no rush right now. But rest assured, if it's the confidence you're after, I have some answers. There are many other opinions, and actually I should have said that at the beginning. These are my opinions. These are just my kind of collection of thoughts and experiences over the years that I've been doing this. But it's I'm the one doing the webinar. I'm the one who's right. So just listen to me. Just kidding, or am I? Anyway, I will do a video, Natasha. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm going to get a bit of a. See, I'm not good in the evenings. I'm better off in the mornings. Why can't we do these webinars first thing in the morning when I'm alert, like 5 o'clock? Because no one else is up. That's why. Okay. Sue's question. How much liquid to take on during the race? Last Reading half marathon, I seem to be, excuse me, Sue, really thirsty. You drank over 4 bottles of water, Lucozade. Then don't want the worry of stopping for the toilet. Okay, so yeah, you got to work out how much water. I'm going to cover that with the nutrition as well, because actually hydrating on the run is another huge topic, and it's something that you kind of need to get. You need to play around with, experiment. In fact, let me briefly answer Natasha's and Sue's question straight away here, because this is something you have to practice with. Don't just think race day nutrition is different to your long run or any other nutrition. Okay? It's just an extension of that. You may have a strategy, but ultimately it's the same. So if you're turning up to race day and all of a sudden you're thinking, well, runners have gels every 40 minutes and they have jelly babies every 20 and they drink 250 mils of water every 30 minutes, that's what I'm going to do today, even though I've never done it before, then you're going to be all sorts of trouble, potentially. Not necessarily, but potentially you could have a nightmare if that happens. If your guts react badly to that, if you're not used to drinking water and it's sloshing around inside you. Some people need more, some people need less. You got to experiment and test things out. Yes, it's good to have a starting point, so I'm not going to leave it too long until I give you the video. I think I might even have done one, but I'll try and shoot another one just for you guys on the subject of race day nutrition and hydration. But ultimately, it's about experimenting. Do not leave it till the day. Make sure you practice in the last few long runs. Kelly asks the question, if you can't make the webinar, is there a way to see the recording? Yes, there is, and you're probably watching it right now, Kelly. Next question, Arnie. Hi, George. A quick question. I've noticed that the long, slow runs in the schedule will soon incorporate a race pace segment. This is a great question. And again, only really relevant if you're following my program. Is it better to do the race pace segment at the beginning, the middle, or the end of the run? I assume it's the hardest at the end. For the webinar, I'd be interested in your view on gels. There we go again. Are they necessarily helpful for a half marathon? Do I use them myself? So I'll answer all that in the other video that I will shoot for you soon. But let's go back to that first one, the long, slow runs. And yes, this is what I do. In my long runs in the program, they run slower than race pace, right? So you're not fatiguing your body. You're keeping it very aerobic. But during the last third of the program, the last 4 or 5 weeks, what you're starting to do is just injecting some race pace practice in during the long run. So you're not doing the whole thing at race pace. Goodness, you don't want to do that. But you are putting some sections in there. So you've got this nice slow stuff. You've got your faster work with the thresholds. And then you've got this opportunity to practice. And actually, it doesn't really matter, in answer to your question, Arnie, where does it go? Probably not the beginning. I would put it either in the middle or the end. If you're doing a 90-minute run and you've got a 30-minute segment of race pace practice, then it's 45 minutes of easy, 30 minutes of race pace practice, and 15 minutes. Is that going to add up? Yeah, 15 minutes of 15 minutes. There we go. My math is all out again. Of easy pace. That would work, depending on what the numbers are. But yeah, the middle of the end, you don't really want to do it at the beginning. You actually want to practice running at race pace when you're a little bit tired. That's the best way to do it. But you're not going to be so fatigued that it has a negative impact on the rest of the sessions in the week. I'm going to finish off the last couple on here, and I'm going to go back to the live questions that have come in. So Jen asks, hoping you'll be able to tune in. Quick question, just in case you can't make tomorrow. This is from Jen Wooden. I want to make this easier, and finding fueling my body the hardest bit to get the grips with. Supposed to be losing weight, and that's not happening as the training is taking over. One thing to make my, okay, if there's one thing to make sure I get in my meals or diet, what would you suggest to make a priority? I would suggest everybody makes nutrients the priority. Don't worry about how many grams of carbs or protein or fats you get per kilo of body weight per hour and all those things. Just get as many nutrients into your body as possible. Race nutrition is no different to normal nutrition. Maybe slightly more of a requirement for some runners to eat more carbohydrates, but you still want to go for the highest quality carbohydrates you can. So go for the quality nutrients, lots of veggies, lots of, well, not so much for the fruits, certain berries, the lower sugar fruits certainly, but definitely loads and loads of veggies, as much as you can, because that's going to support your body. It's going to support your immune system so you don't get ill like I am. It's going to help you recover between sessions. It's going to fuel your body, and you're less likely to want to eat all of the things when you get in from a run, because you've probably given your body what it needs, and it's not just craving sweet stuff and cakes and pies, and the little monkey in your brain is saying, well, you can have all that because you just ran for half an hour or whatever it is. So don't listen to that monkey. It's a bad monkey. Listen to me. Just listen to me. Eat all of the nutritional things, the high nutrient things, spinach, curly kale, broccoli, all the things that your mum told you should eat. They're all really good for you, but leafy green veggies in particular, but actually any veggies are great. Fill your boots with them, fill up on those things. And a little bit of fruit as well. So fruit's not a bad thing. Eat the fruit, and the rest of the time eat just kind of normal amounts. There is no one thing that you should eat, I'm afraid, Jen. But I would certainly say smash in the high nutrient foods as much as possible. Warren has a question, which is how to log on to the webinar tonight, and hopefully you figured that one out, Warren, because I put the link up earlier. Let's have a look, see what we're doing with the questions. We've got lots more of you tuning in here. We've got Chinham, Basingstoke, Nottingham, up in Nottingham. Samantha up in Nottingham, fantastic. Tasha up in Whitley Wood. See, I know all these. I lived in Reading for quite a while. I know Reading quite well. I was in Tilehurst and used to run right the way past where I lived, which is always fun. Anyway, Victoria, another question. Energy gels. Okay, here we go. Energy gels again. This will be my first race. People are talking about gels or jelly babies. Currently running 10 miles with nothing. Is this okay? Well, you're the only person who can answer that question, Victoria. Do you feel okay? I once sat in on a panel at an event in Dublin with, I had Katrina McKinnon, who's the Irish record holder and an ex-London Marathon winner, on my right, and I had John Tracy, who's a silver medalist from the LA Olympics in the marathon, on my left. And somebody asked a very similar question. John Tracy's, he's kind of an old guy. He's thinking, "Oh, I never had anything but water to drink when I was running marathons." And Katrina chimes in and she says, "So I'm like this. Katrina said, "Well, John, imagine what you could have done if you had taken gels on." so I'm kind of like, I didn't really know what to say to that. But yeah, you got to experiment with these things. Don't just think, well, this is what I have to do because other runners are doing it. And I saw a very good video with Chrissy Wellington the other day, the 4-time world Ironman champion. And this woman knows a thing or two about fueling her body for ultimate endurance activities. That's a 2.4 mile swim, a 112-mile bike ride, and then a marathon. And she was doing these in around the 8-hour mark, or under 9 hours, certainly. And so she was fueling her body. And one of the things that she said was that you train your body to need whatever, so if you're eating loads of carbohydrates when you train, then that's what it's going to need in the race. Whereas if you're doing 10 miles, Victoria, then without anything at all, then you're probably going to be okay on the day. You probably don't need to have any. Whereas if you're taking gels on every 20 minutes, then you're probably going to need to have that on the day. So your body actually is susceptible to flexing depending on how you train and what sort of nutrients you use when you're training. Okay, Roshni asks, listening from Basingstoke, good. Really looking forward to the Reading half. Yep, second one ever. My question, are there any particular miles that are tricky in the Reading half marathon? Ooh, good question. In terms of hills, congestion, any strategy to get through them? Not really. There's a couple of slightly hillier, more undulating hills than others perhaps, but it's a pretty good course, the Reading half. There's a lot of runners. There's not really massive congestion anywhere. You're going to get bits where, the beginning, for example, there's a lot of, excuse me, a lot of runners all trying to get across the start line. You've got to take care at the start then. You're probably, in the first couple of miles, you're just getting into your rhythm, finding your feet, finding your pace. But there's not really much congestion. In terms of hills, I actually did a course video review last year. I will dig out the video, actually, it's a good question, Roshni, and post it in the group where I talk through the course. And I know the course very, very well, even though it changed last year. It didn't change significantly. It's much better now because you've taken out a big, horrible hairpin that we used to have in, which was just depressing, frankly. But it means that you've still got some of the hills in there. That's what I'm trying to say. So I will find that video because then it gives you a bit of an idea as to what to expect. But there's a couple of slopes, but nothing to write home about. People will differ in their opinions on that statement that it's a very flat course, because you are going to feel a couple of hills, but they're over in a blink of an eye. So no worries, nothing to worry about. Promise. Okay, Warren, here's your question. Just wanted to ask, how do I catch up on the mileage? Okay, so not sure if you heard the first answer I gave there, Warren, to the other question, but you've been injured recently, and the furthest run was 14 kilometers. Haven't run for about more than a half weeks. Okay, that's not too bad. Now I have to do 18. Yeah, adding 4K on, I'd probably, if you were to add in another 3 kilometers instead of 4 kilometers, that's probably okay. Now that's a mile, that's almost 2 miles, right? So it's not ideal. As long as you're taking it nice and slow, that's probably okay. So you wouldn't want to add in the full 4K, but add in a couple of 2.5K, and then the next week you can add another 2.5K if that fits in with your program. Personally, I work with time rather than distance, so it's a little bit different there. Yeah, that's what you do. I think just the question continues. There is no time limit, but I would like to know what I should do about the distance. Should I increase the mileage slightly but go slow to the distance? Training for London Marathon. Okay, so if you're training for London, then your distance is going to be racking up in line with that, and there's like 59 days to go to London now. So yeah, you do need to ensure that you're getting the mileage up there, but equally you don't want to ramp it up so quickly to make up for that lost time that you actually injure yourself again. So build it back up gradually. And if you know what, you don't get, you're a kilometer or two short from where you wanted to be for your marathon program, then so be it. At least you'll get to the start line. That's the most important thing. I know you have answers, but this more towards time than distance. Reading is a training run for London. So yeah, no time limit. Thank you. Okay, so do that. Let me just, because I just realised that you probably didn't understand a word of that. I was just reading the question in shorthand to myself. I know you have answers to this, but more towards time than distance. Running is a training run. Now, I know lots of you will be using running as a training run. It's actually a little bit closer than normal for London, which isn't ideal, but it is what it is, and you're still going ahead with it. My advice actually isn't to race Reading. My advice, if you are doing London and you're free to ignore that advice or receive it and take it, it's up to you. But my advice is to not race running, but to do it and use it as a long training run. So if your training run was like 16 miles, for example, or 3 hours for that week, beginning of April, then you do the race, then come out, get your full blanket, get your goodie bag, get your medal, and go out for another run for half an hour just to make up time. I've done that before when I've been training for London at Reading. So you can do that. And there will be a few people who do that as well. Just don't get in anybody else's way. That's the obvious thing there. Yeah, I wouldn't race it just because if you smash yourself on a half marathon this close to London, then A, you're not going to recover from that quickly, and B, there is a chance of injuring yourself. Anytime you push yourself to your limits, then of course you increase your chance of injury again, and you know how frustrating that is already. Chris asks, listening from Gillingham in Kent. This will be my 5th running half marathon. Good, a regular. And hopefully my first sub 2 hour. How exciting. I wonder what your other ones were. My question is, when I drive, sometimes I get slight pain in my right quad. It's never really affected my running, but I'm yet to do any running soon after a long drive. Okay, so I'm still a bit concerned that it could flare up. I'm probably driving to the running half marathon this year, though I can get the train. Is it something that's not worth taking a risk over? Personally, if you know that you get tight hip flexors from sitting in a car and you have the option of getting a train, I'd get the train. No, it's as simple as that. It's not worth taking the risk. You know that there's a chance that's going to happen. So it just play it safe, Chris. Get the train over. Or come over the night before and spring for a hotel room so you're rested properly in the morning as well. Up to you how you play that one. But there's a risk of the hip flexor being tight. I know what you mean. I know that feeling of tightness through the front of the hip. It probably isn't worth the risk. That would be my advice. Bailey Hoskins, hi, I heard that there are paces on the day. There certainly are, of which I am one of them. Are they in all of the zones, including pink? I don't actually know what the pink zone refers to, unfortunately, Bailey, so I can't answer that. What I do know is that I have quite a lot of say in where they start, and we have paces, and we'll be doing more on the pacers team as well. There's a great group of guys and girls who are tasked with doing nothing but helping you around the course in your target time. They will be running metronomical miles, so they'll be keeping the same minutes per mile the whole way through. Okay. Now from 120, 125, that's me, to 130, 135, right the way around to 230. And then even after 230, there's other kind of motivators as well running around, but they're not keeping the same sort of metronomical pace. As to where they start, the only zone I know that they won't be starting in, I'm pretty sure this is the case, is the charity zone. Because you're not going, the charity zone is comprised of all different speed runners. So if you're a charity runner, like a proper charity runner, then not just you're running it and you're going to raise some money for charity. If you're there as a member of the charity team, then you will be in the charity zone. And I think it's the goals, I'm not sure. I have to look at the race start map, and you won't have paces in there because you'll have 120 runners, you'll have 4-hour runners, you'll have everything in between. Okay, but the paces will be spread out evenly. I'm going to try and make it really obvious where the paces are, so you can actually see markers along the really long lineup of the start there, where the different paces are going to be, and hopefully you'll be able to find one that's in your zone. And I will know that information in advance as well, because I'm going to do a site visit the week before this time. Okay, great question about the paces there. Warren, another one. When you run, do you feel little niggles and aches, etc. whilst running? Been running for around 1 year now. Sometimes there are pains and sometimes there aren't. Is this usual? Yeah, it's usual. It depends on, you can't go and see a physio every time you feel anything like a niggle or a pain. And the closer you get to a race, an important race in particular, the more you are gonna feel these niggles, the more they're gonna be kind of a lot of it psychosomatic, thinking, oh my goodness, my knee's hurting, I'm gonna, I've got runner's knee coming on, I've got bursitis in my hip, or I've got a hip flexor strain, my Achilles tendonitis is flaring up, all these little things that probably aren't, but you kind of they turn into bigger things in your head. So I'm not saying ignore niggles. If a niggle persists, then you want to get it seen to. But yeah, little niggles and tightnesses, it's not unusual to get them as a runner. So it could be a sign of something else. Depends on where you're getting them, if it's the same place all the time. But if it kind of moves around your body, then it's probably nothing to worry about. Jen, can we have a pacer at 2:45, please? There isn't a pacer at 2:45, but there are runners tasked with helping runners around at 2:45. The thing with 2:45 pace or anything slower than 2:30 is you're pretty certain that there's going to be a good chunk of walking in there, which is absolutely fine, but it's hard to pace that because it won't be even pace all the way through. So that's the only thing with that. So 2:30, Tom, my 2:30 pacer, he will run the whole thing at the same pace the whole way around. Now, some runners doing 2:30 will run faster than him for bits, and they'll stop and stretch, or they'll catch them up and he's doing this concert, this concert. Some of them will go slower than 2:30, and as I said, there will be lots of runners between 2:30 and probably even 3:30, but certainly 2:30 to 3 hours for the half marathon in Reading. You're going to find that you're going to be walk jogging, which, like I said, is absolutely fine, but it's one of the reasons we don't have paces at those times, because it's very hard to pace like that. I've paced a 4:45 marathon before, and that was quite hard to do that. It's quite hard to run that slowly, consistently, for a pacer. Not that that's the reason we do it. We don't do it, but the fact is, like I said, most people will run walk when you get to the sort of 2:30 plus times. But as I said, Jen, as far as I'm aware, there are sort of motivators, people at the back who are there, or kind of beyond 2:30, who are there tasked with helping keep the energy high, keep you motivated, and kind of make it as enjoyable experience as possible. And it absolutely will be. Like I said, there are going to be thousands of runners all around you if you're going for 2:45. No worries about that. Victoria says, if it's cold at the start while you're waiting, do you have a jacket on? And if you do, what do you do with it? So now, that's not a silly question at all, Victoria. It's a absolutely stonking question, because it's absolutely valid. What happens if it's freezing cold at the start? What happens if it's raining at the start and you've got to stand around? I mean, obviously you want to get down there for my amazing warm-up. So, you don't want to miss that. And you could be there for 20, 30 minutes getting soaking wet. So here's a tip. And you'll see people doing a couple of different things. Either bring a jacket, an old jacket that you don't mind throwing away, okay? Or, well, there's three things you can do. You can either take a jacket that you don't mind throwing away, and when you throw it away, and you'll see a lot of runners doing this, the bits of clothing being thrown left, right, and center, like a clothing firework display at the start of a race or seconds before the gun goes. And then somebody comes along at the end, they clear all that up, and all those clothes go to a charity, like a clothing bag. Okay, so you actually donate it to charity at the same time. If it's a decent jacket, you don't want to throw it in the bin. Have someone, a supporter, maybe a mile or so down the course or somewhere where you know they're going to be, start with a jacket, and then when you see them, take your jacket off and throw it to them. The third thing a lot of people do is they wear a stylishly adorned black bin bag, cut a hole in the neck, cut a hole in the middle for the neck, cut a hole in each corner for the arms, stick it on, and there you go. You don't have to waste any clothing at all doing it that way. So you'll see a lot of people, it sounds ridiculous, but you'll see a lot of people doing that as well. So there's my top tips for that. Chris, cheers for the answer, no problem. My first 3 runs between 2:24 and 3:35. Okay, so yeah, get under 2 hours. You'll be fine for that. Last year 2:08. So close. I think it's the removal of the pressing mile near the end. Yes, so that's a big difference to the route this time. If you've done it, if last year was your first year, then you'll have just done the amazing route. The last one was pretty good. The last few years, what we've done is you come back down the A33 towards the stadium. There you see the great big grand Medeski Stadium looming up ahead of you. You're thinking, yeah, I'm almost there. Thinking, my goodness, they must have mismeasured this because I've still got 3 miles to go. And then you find you've got to do a lap, or not a lap, you've got to go right the way up and then back down this big old hairpin. And it was just depressing. So they got rid of that by giving us a nice big loop at the start and gets everyone settled down. So that's a good change to the course. Stephen asks, can you wear headphones during the half marathon? Absolutely, you can wear headphones, but you run the risk of disqualification. They ain't my rules. I don't even think that it's the Reading Half Marathon, the sweatshop rules. I think that's the rules of the insurance, and that's more and more common. You might not get pulled, but there's the risk. So if you're really not comfortable running without music, and actually if this is your first half marathon, I can tell you there is a lot of noise, there's a lot of support, there's a lot of music along the route. But if you really need to have your own, then consider having maybe like a tiny player or something where you can, I know Nigel, one of the pacers, he has like a little music player that just like a Bluetooth player that he plays from his phone, and just very quietly, but he can hear it and those around him can hear it. So you might consider doing something like that just to take the risk away of, last thing you want is to get disqualified for a silly thing like wearing a pair of headphones. But again, it's something that a lot of people will be asking that question. Like I said, it's not really my domain, but that's the lay of the land, I'm afraid, on that one. Let me just refresh. I think we're getting to the end of the questions here. Here we go. So Jan says that the bad monkey will be banished to the upstairs cupboard for now and then. Okay, good to hear. Any other questions? Any questions? Post them in the comments. I'm just going to check on the other post now as well, just in case anybody's asked any over there that I've missed. Give me a second here. No, I don't know if there's any over there. Any other questions, guys? I'm just going to. I am just going to take a big old glug of water. And in the meantime, if you have any other questions, then you can ask them. In fact, I'm going to do one other thing. I'm just going to check on my YouTube channel as well, because this is being broadcast live through YouTube as well, and see if there's anything on there. This is weird, by the way. I never get over how weird it is. I'm just sitting here in my kitchen talking to a computer. All I see is a little green light and a picture of me. I'm not even looking at that now. Hang on, here we go. My channel. So videos. Let's have a look, because you can ask questions. I don't normally. I can't see them anyway. I can't see it. So okay, well, who knows? If you've asked questions on YouTube, I did say go over to the Facebook page and ask them over there. So, or the group rather. Oh, here we go. A couple more questions. Victoria tells us, how many drink stations are there on the way around? I believe, Victoria, that there are. There's a map tells you where all the drink stations are. I'm just putting it into search now. So again, our community shopping, the race info, half marathon. If you go to I can't find it on there, but if you go to the readinghalfmarathon.com website, then it will tell you where you'll probably be able to download a map of the course. And on the map of the course, it will tell you exactly where the drink stations are, to where the Lucozade stations are. And on that note, if you want to take the Lucozade, take the Lucozade. But for goodness sake, make sure you practice with Lucozade in training. If you're not used to taking on, it's not really fizzy, but if you're not used to taking on glucose-laden sports drinks during a run, then make sure that the 3rd of April isn't your first foray into this type of on-the-run refueling, because it might be okay, but then again, it might not, and that can get a little bit embarrassing, if you know what I mean. Warren says, does everyone get a medal that enters? Yes, they absolutely do, and it is a stonker of a medal as well. It's a really nice one, and you'll be very proud to pop it around your neck. So yeah, you'll get a medal as long as you finish. Don't finish, don't get a medal. So actually, no. To answer your question, the answer is no. Does everyone get a medal that enters? No, they don't. Only those who finish are the ones who get a medal, and I think that's right as well. I'm sure you agree. Jen says, in taper week, when should your last run before the week be? Thursday or Friday, and how long should it be? Not sure if you're following my program, Jen, my Get You Round program or not, but I suggest Thursday or Friday. Really, it depends on you, but it's just a short run, really. It's not a long run, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes, something. And that's might sound like a long way at the moment, but when you're thinking you're going to be running for sort of 2 hours plus on the day, then half an hour isn't very long at all. Nice and easy. It's just a leg stretch, really. It's nothing serious. It's just getting out there and running. But yeah, Thursday or Friday, nothing the day before, and then run on the day. If you know that you need a couple more days of recovery, then do it on the Thursday. Simple as that. So Monday, Wednesday, Thursday would do for the taper week. But for most people, Monday, Wednesday, Friday will be just fine. Or even just 2 runs in the week. It depends. It's up to you. It's taper week. You're not really going to get better at running in that week, but you do have the opportunity to allow your body to recover so that you're able to put out your best work on the run itself. That's the key. It's not about getting faster. It's about getting yourself ready. Natasha, yes. Oh, yes, if they finish. Yes, absolutely. It's shown on the map. So Natasha's obviously been on the website there, and how many drink stations are anywhere around? In answer to Victoria's question, yes, it is shown on the map. So that's good. But maybe if you can get the link up, Natasha, I don't know if you're on the website, if somebody can get the link up and just pop that up in answer to Victoria's question about drink stations. But they're pretty regular. They're every sort of 3 miles or so. So there's lots there. Another question from Warren. See, that's the benefit of being able to waffle and get more questions in. How important is the stretching? How important is stretching, and how much time to dedicate to it? I'm going to ask you for some clarification on that, Warren. When? Do you mean before a run, after a run, in general, after the race? before the race. Give me some more to go on from that, and I'll see if I can answer it. Let's see if there's anything else popped up there. Oh, hang on, we've got a couple more people asking to join the group, and here I am kind of rattling on. I haven't. Let me let Keith and Sean in, who have been patiently waiting to join the group since I last sent an email about an hour ago. Anybody else with questions for the Reading Half Marathon? Guys, don't forget as well, I will do another one of these if there's enough call for it. I think we've had some really good questions here. I'm going to really go to town on the nutrition stuff. But if you have any other questions about your preparation, just pop them in the group. This is a great forum because it's not just me who gets to answer them. You've got a load of other people who are experienced runners, people who will have the same sort of questions, that they'll be thinking the same things as you. And it's always good to know that you're not alone, right? Warren asks a bit of both before and after a run. So this is for question. So yeah, well, before a run, here's the thing, and this is a little controversial for some people, but I'm going to go with it anyway. So before a run, I recommend keeping your stretches fairly dynamic. So for example, if you're going to stretch the hip flexors, then you want to get into a hip flexor stretch, then release, into the hip flexor stretch, and then release. So you're not holding the stretch. You're not holding a hamstring stretch. You might want to, if you know you have a tightness in the calf, then you might want to stretch into the calf. But actually a warm-up for a run should really just be a nice easy run. So start off with an easy paced run. Stretching out the hip flexors is going to help. That's a good thing. But lots of static stretching before is probably not the best thing to do. Afterwards, then yeah, a bit of stretching afterwards, some foam rolling. I would definitely spend some time stretching. You don't have to go over the top. It depends on, again, how susceptible you are to injuries. Chances are the more you stretch, the less chances you have of picking up injuries. But the problem is with that statement is that most people don't like stretching and will find all sorts of reasons for not doing it. So just try, don't put the pressure on yourself to try and do like 20 minutes of stretching after a run, because it won't happen, especially if you're not used to doing it. But just spend a few minutes stretching down. I try and get up in the morning and spend 10 to 15 minutes every morning stretching. So I'll just spend that time. So I get up early. I'll do all sorts of things, like I meditate, and then I'll stretch, and I'll listen to audiobooks and other kind of, polish my halo, all those sorts of things. But the stretching is a really important part of my day now, because it just makes me feel better. And actually the next morning when I wake up, I don't feel stiff and tight and sore because I'm stretching every day. But so if you never stretch, then all of a sudden you're stretching just after a run, it's going to have some impact, but not very much. Better to do short bursts, but on a regular basis, if you can fit that into your life. Kind of a lot of people like to stretch in the evening when their body's warmed up, and then they're able to sort of do it in front of the TV and whatever. So that's my advice on that one. Okay, here we go. Victoria says, before run would be handy. Ian Bedwell, just how wonderful are your paces? Ian, the paces are superb. They're the best. I can't speak highly enough of them. Oh, hang on. Ian Bedwell, you are one of my paces. Oh, right, okay. I wonder where that question came from. Yeah, the paces, actually, they do a really good job, a really, really good job. And it is about, I'll talk more about the paces and pacing in a future email. Make sure you're on my email list. That's readinghalfmarathontraining.co.uk. You can sign up to my emails. You get the program, a bit late for that now, but you get the other emails that I'll send out as well, including some body conditioning exercises and stretches, which I'm sending out this weekend or early next week. So make sure you are on the list. That's readinghalfmarathontraining.co.uk. So yeah, I will be talking more about paces and pacing. Jen, adding to Warren's question, should you do a second stretch set on the same day after a long run, later in the day, on a rest day, or the day after? Yeah, all of the above, Jen. If you find that it helps. Some people don't get any value out of it at all. Some people, if I said that's what you should do, will completely ignore that advice, and it just won't get done because it's just too much. So start off with what you're comfortable with committing to, and do that. Some is better than none, and the most motivated runners to stretch are those who have been injured for being for not stretching enough. So you don't want to be that runner. You don't want to get injured first and then be motivated. But it's very hard if you don't really like stretching to think, oh, I've got to do this again. You just won't enjoy doing it. So just do a little bit. Take the pressure off. Give yourself permission to just do a few minutes, and you'll get at least some of the benefits there. Keith Jeffrey says, hi George, and actually I see your questions. It was Cut in two there by John's question, which I'll come back to in a second. Says, thanks for all your tips. I understand it's the 20 to 30-minute walk from base to start is the way of avoiding this to conserve energy. Yeah, you get over the start line as soon as you can. There's actually a couple of kind of undercover areas. Is it rainy? I think it was rainy. It's actually cold last year. But yeah, get there as soon as you can. It is quite a nice sort of warm up. It's just an easy walk over. No stress. Get over there, do the warm up, and you'll be good to go. Yeah, it's about 20 minutes though, at least, or a 10-minute jog if you want to jog it. John's question. Hi George, running for the second time. Last year is in pink. We couldn't hear or see the warm, but yes. Hang on, let me finish the question. Sorry. Are there any changes this year to enable those further back? Also, any advice on a recovery run? I.e., how soon, for how long? Great to think. Good to hear that you're thinking ahead. Beyond the race. So you actually, you're going to get to the end of the race, and what happens next? That's good, John. I will talk more about recovery runs. You don't actually have to do a recovery run. Probably the easiest answer to that question. It can help some people. I don't particularly buy into them. Most people don't need. The best recovery run is where you sit on the couch or maybe do some stretching that we just talked about there. So give your body a proper chance to recover rather than going out and just doing a lame ass half-hour easy jog where you're still going to be. There's some science to back up that you'll kind of flush out some of the lactic if you do it that way. But most people don't need to do recovery runs. It's just we just don't. Yeah, if you want to just get back into running, then just again play it by ear. Some people will be able to go out running the next day. Some people will need to leave it 2 or 3 days. Some people won't be walking down the stairs without the aid of a crutch for 4 or 5 days. So it's up to you. You might be going down the stairs on your bottom, and there's no way you're going to go out for a run. Whatever I say about how quickly you should be doing your recovery runs. So everyone's going to be different. Depends how hard you push it, how seasoned you are as a runner, and all those things. But yeah, in answer to your question about the warm-up stages, again, I wasn't aware on the day, but I realised that my stage was right at the start, and the 1:30 runners and faster, God bless them, that's where I'm pacing. But I know those guys and girls, they ain't going to be doing my warm-up with me. Okay, I'm not going to be there next time. I'm going to be further down, which is where I normally am. It just so happens to be there on the roundabout, facing the runners. It looks good, but it doesn't really get the sort of impact. So I will be having a word to try and move the stage further down the field. So all the 3 stages that we have are spread right the way along. So everybody who needs the warm up, because it's not just about physically warming up, it's about mentally getting in gear for the run as well. And I'll make sure that that happens, that you can all at least hear it, and that the speakers go right the way down through all the zones, because I know that was a problem last year. Okay, let's have a look. Any other questions? Okay, hang on. We've got a question in response to Keith's comment or question about the walk, 20 or 30-minute walk. Where is the base? I think it's all pretty much close together. It is close together, but you've got the stadium is where all the fun stuff is, all the race village and the hotel and everything, and then you've got the Longwater Drive, Longwater Avenue. That's where the race start is, and it's about 20-30 minutes. Ian, advice on what to eat the night before the race? Yes, I'm going to do a video on the 24 hours prior to the race. I know you're probably asking that on behalf of those who haven't asked them yet, because I'm pretty sure you know the answer to that. But let's just rest assured that you don't have to eat your weight in pasta and potatoes the night before the race. You just don't have to do that, okay? And actually what you do the night before the race is going to be not much different to what you do the night before normal long run. So the good news is it's not complicated, but I will shoot a video on the same. Warren, a silly question. There are no such things as silly questions. Edit that post and remove the silly question bit, please, Warren. Are there toilets on the start? First time doing RHM, but there weren't any at Oxford. Yeah, I know. How many at Oxford are there? Now, there are in Reading. Expect to queue, but there are toilets. There are portaloos. Try if you can and go at the top, then maybe stop drinking for half an hour beforehand. So you're not really passing through. Excuse me, I'm dying. Look at this commitment to you guys. I'm still here, 9:05, still going strong, even though I'm on death's door here. No, I'm gonna keep on answering these questions, because this is what I live for. So yes, no, there are toilets. It's a very good practical question there, and expect to queue basically. As long as you don't mind queuing up, then get there early, and you'll be fine. Keith asks, can supporters drive to base later to pick up? They open the road up. I wouldn't count on it. The road situation is pretty manic going back to at the base area. There's no roads, certainly around the Medeski Stadium area. I mean, this isn't really my area. I'm more kind of obviously training, but from a logistical perspective, from what I've seen, you definitely don't want to have any traffic going that way. You want to be getting buses out rather than, or go to one of the car parks, have somebody meet you at the car park. But you're best off going onto the page and asking the organisers that rather than me, because I don't know, is the honest answer. Other questions? You guys have been really good with your questions tonight. Thank you so much for your contributions, because that's what makes it what it is. We've covered quite a lot. I'm just checking to see if there's any more questions popped up there. I don't think there are. You know what? I might just call it there. Oh, hang on, what was that? Another one popped up just at us then there. Keith, and again, one from Keith. I understand that coloured numbered groups go off in turn. Yes, okay, so this was another new thing. I think last year was the first time they did this. There is a gap, and I can't say exactly how long it takes, and they don't know either, because it depends on, well, they might know now because the entries are closed, but they don't know what the numbers are going to be like for each of the zones, to know how big the zones are going to be, to know how long to have between the zones, if that makes some kind of sense. Hopefully it does. But ultimately, your time doesn't start until you cross the start line. So, you know, the only thing that can be frustrating there is if you're here at the start and there's somebody else there, but they're in a different zone, right? And or maybe they're a pacemaker and you're hoping to stick with that pacemaker, but there's a little bit of ribbon that separates you because you're in a different zone, and the gun goes and they disappear off into the distance, and you're never going to see them again because you've got to wait a minute or 2 minutes. I'm not sure. It's not very long, basically, between the waves. That's the only frustrating thing. But your time won't begin until you cross the start line. So that's the important thing to remember. Victoria on colours. Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't really answer questions on the coloured zones. I really haven't got a clue. I never get involved in that side of things. Elena, I hope I pronounced your name correctly there. Please, could you explain some detail how to do interval training for speed? I can't seem to find this information on the internet without having to pay. Well, if you go to readinghalfmarathontraining.co.uk, you can download my abridged half marathon program, my iHalf program that I wrote, or kind of amended from my paid for program, the iHalf, for free. So there is free stuff on there, and it's the official program. So jump on that because it does go through. There's also a load of videos on my YouTube channel, where if you click the link on this video, you'll go through YouTube, search for Threshold. You'll see a good video there where I explain Threshold. That's a lesson in how to run faster. You want to run faster, make sure you got Threshold running in there. There we go. Started doing some fartlek style stuff. My shortest run, right, this won't be enough to reduce my time to sub 140 from 144. Well, it suggests to me that if you're really serious about it, then you want to get a proper training program. The more serious you get, the more you want to make sure that you're covering, you're digging every potential avenue to unlock that speed, wherever it is, whether it's maybe it's paying for a coaching session, maybe it's immersing yourself in videos where you learn about threshold runnings and learn how to put together your own training program. There are lots of really good free programs on the internet. So mine included my half marathon program that I wrote for the event. There's interval training, and certainly if you're looking at 1:30 to 2 hours, which is obviously where you are, 1:44 down to 1:40 for this year's your target time, then there is interval training, there is threshold running in there. However, there's only 5 weeks of that left to go. So I don't know if you've already been doing that or not, but certainly if you jump onto that, then you will get more emails from me, as long as you don't mind getting emails from me, which explains a little bit more about that kind of training. And there's links to loads of good stuff as well. So hopefully that's helped a little bit there. Now, Warren, I don't mind being here as long as you edit that question earlier about it being a silly question. I see you haven't yet, so make sure you edit that. No such thing as a silly question. I know you want to go, but last one for me. In July, I'm cycling Ride London. While I'm running London in April, would you advise cross-training with running and cycling or not? The answer is it depends on what your focus is. Can you train for London with minimal cycling? If London's your focus, for example, can you train for London with minimal cycling that's going to affect, because basically if you're doing lots of cycling, that's not the best thing to do for your best performance in a marathon. But if you want to do pretty well at both of them, then yeah, you've got to combine the two. You have to combine the two. You can't wait until you finish in April before you start training for July. It's a decent length ride London. But it depends on how fast you want to do it, whether you want to compete, whether you have a time in mind or what. So lots of unknown variables there. Ian, great Q&A. Thank you, Ian. Appreciate it. Victoria, thanks ever so much, George. Feel much better now. Looking forward to the nutrition video. It's on its way, Victoria. Rest assured. Keith, by the way, I've been to the sweatshop runs. Those sweatshop runs. Oh, where are they? The sweatshop runs, they have been really good and helpful. Yes, the sweatshop runs, if you can get to them, they are really good. Not only do you get to go on an organized run and experience running in a group like that, you're running with people who are training for the same event. And you're in a community there. This is a great community, but real people, nothing quite beats that, especially when you're doing the thing that you love, which is running. Keith, thanks again. Elena, great, thank you. Guys, I am going to close it out right there and say thank you very much for being a part of this and keep me entertained with your amazing questions. I think I'm going to go to bed now, but thank you. Yes, video will be up. The recording's up if you want to kind of dip back in and see any of the answers to the questions that were posted on the thread. But for now, thanks very much. Anything else, pop it on the post or on the in the group, and I'll get to it as soon as I can. Bye for now.